Hello, Anne.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Oh, it's so good to see you, precious Sabina.
So good to see you, precious Anne. And Yoshi.
Oh, hello, precious Yoshi. My girl. I love
Yeah,
you, Yoshi.
that's your girl. Sonali.
Hello.
Wow.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Jamie woke up. I said hello too loud. Jamie woke up.
Oh my gosh. It is 1 in the morning there.
No, 2:30.
2:30
2:30 in the.
in India. Hi, Mike. Hello. I don't know if you can see above you, Sonali is calling you from India.
I see her.
You
Hi,
see her.
Sonali.
She sees you.
Hello.
So good
Hi.
to see you.
Good to see you too.
We're preparing the space now. Seemingly doing nothing. Allowing our breath to become nourishing. So let's open to being nourished. Just notice, what is it? What is it that we do to open to being nourished? Hello, Bert. We're opening to being nourished. Nourished by this very breath that we're breathing as one. Nourished by the rays of light, the photons that meet your skin, meet your eyes. Nourished by the ultraviolet light, comes through the crown of your head. And by that magnetic field of gravity, which is love, that's breathing in through the soles of your feet. So gathering here in this sacred space, it's so sacred to see you. From all over the world. Kindreds from Australia, from France,
Africa. No, India.
from Africa,
No, India.
India, from India, from North Carolina, Washington, Oregon, California, Florida, and from the Pleiades too. See, there they are. The wailing Pleiadian tea kettles. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to put us all on mute just for sound quality, but you know you can unmute yourself at any time. Now, at this point, I don't see any newcomers, so I am not going to explain anything. I'm just going to remind us to welcome first your very self. Wholeheartedly. One-heartedly. Notice how when you welcome yourself from this depth of one-hearted, wholeheartedness, you're welcoming all. So magical. Today we're going to invite in all of nature's beings, including ourselves and including all humans who would be nourished by being here. So we open this space far and wide, beyond what we can even conceive, because that's who we are. Far and wide, beyond what we can even conceive. And somehow when we are in this co-created space, it gives us a superpower of ease to just allow this vastness, to allow this true nature to emerge fully. We will be inviting in all these great beings as one energy field, one quantum field of non-separateness, even though we speak their names as if they are separate. So we call in the herd here, who we can see behind me, all gathered around. Khalil, Yoshi, Travis, Taz, Teddy, and Omar, who we don't see with our naked eyes, but we can feel with our naked minds. And call in all of your most intimate, beloved animal kin. Those that have crossed paths with you. Those dogs, cats, birds, insects, spiders, rabbits, horses, lizards, fish, the ones you see every day peeking out from trees, under rocks, in the water, slithering on the ground, running across the meadows. And all those humans that interact with these animal beings. Some who do so consciously and others unconsciously, all interfacing with the consciousness, the natural world, which is who we are. Let's call in those exotic animals in India, the elephant beings, the tigers. Let's call in the sacred cows, the monkey. Let's call in those exotic rainforest beings, and all the exotic Australian marsupial beings, and all the exotic oceanic beings and winged ones that are nearer than near, as exotic as we are. Let's call in those safari giraffes, gazelles, lions, rhinos, hippos. Let's call in those beings who live in the open plains, the buffalo, cows, the wild horses, the mules and burros, donkey, elk, all the forest dwellers, and all the forests, the trees, the ancient redwoods, the willows and oaks, the pines, the never-ending beauty, the variety of flora on this beloved earth. And the soil itself, and all the ecosystems living in the soil. We call in the flowers, the healing herbs, and the poisonous, toxic weeds. And the elements, the rain, water, fire, lightning, the wind, the air, and all those beings who have left their form, have moved on into the formless realms, but are still palpably amplifying this very moment. We call in all these great beings of light, converged as one, here and now. So our exploration today is on the frequency of vibration that we know as resistance. And this is just the beginning of our month-long, lifelong exploration. But I would say it's a good beginning, these transmissions that came through and have been coming through as an exploration. And the first thing that the heart of nature, consciousness, wanted to clarify for us is that we are exploring the dimension of resistance that is not natural. So to clarify, we are exploring the dimension of resistance that is not natural. Resistance in its raw, pure expression is a part of the natural flow of isness. It's how you even came into existence. It is a holy force. And you, through the complexity of your desire-based thought and feeling matrix, have polluted pure resistance with a default mechanism that coats the magical isness of each moment. This is what we want to shed light upon with you, beloved kindreds. And so grateful we are for all who have gathered here to do just that. So to clarify, we are exploring the dimension of resistance that is not natural. Resistance in its raw, pure expression is a part of the natural flow of isness. It is how you even came into existence. It is a holy force. And you, through the complexity of your desire-based thought and feeling matrices, have polluted pure resistance with a default mechanism that coats the magical isness of each moment. This is what we are shedding light upon with you, beloved kindreds. And so grateful we are for all who have gathered here to do just that. So let's breathe this in, gently beginning to shed light upon this unnatural, man-made, distorted default pattern of resistance. And just gently begin to see it more clearly. Have you ever noticed, have you ever brought a tiny, sacred smidge of noticing to how you, as a member of the human race, how you contribute to a habit, energy setup of your whole orientation to life that is stuck in a default mode of unconscious resistance to everything except to that which you think you want, or except to that which you think is right? Have you ever noticed or brought a tiny sacred smidge of noticing to how you as a member of the human race contribute to a habit, energy setup of your whole orientation to life that is stuck in a default mode of unconscious resistance to everything except to that which you think you want, or to that which you think is right? So we all of nature are holding space right here, right now, for you to dive into. Two questions. First, we ask, within you, is there a field beyond right and wrong? Is there a field beyond personal desire? Is there a field of holy wildflowers and healing herbs and bitter, poisonous, prickly weeds growing together in a field free from self-created correctness and free from personal wanting? Secondly, we ask you, even if there is not such a place yet cultivating or blossoming within, might there be a possibility for a new setup of ushering in freedom? Freedom from the unconscious default setting of resistance to what is? Is there a possibility of loosening resistance that sneakily overcoats everything that is not what you think you want or that you think is not correct? And perhaps it is that we have come to that courageous time, here and now, to begin to question what you think you want, and instead to experience going with the flow of what sentience wants, which may not actually be at odds with what you want underneath it all. Have you ever noticed or ever brought a tiny sacred smidge of noticing to how you as a member of the human race contribute to a habit, energetic setup of your whole orientation to life that is stuck in a default mode of unconscious resistance to everything except to that which you think you want, or to that which you think is right? So we, all of nature, are holding space right here, right now, for you to dive into two questions. First, we ask, within you, is there a field beyond right and wrong? Is there a field beyond personal desire? A field of holy wildflowers and healing herbs and bitter, poisonous, prickly weeds growing together in a field, free from self-created correctness and free from personal wanting. So let's look for a moment with gentle inner gaze of the softest, most compassionate eyes, like that of a deer, or that of a horse, or that of any nature being. Just look and see within if there is a place that can feel an okayness, an acceptance to the mishmash of manifestation. That begins to fly free from what you personally want to have look more manicured, less wild, more refined in a more correct way. Or that isn't led by preference, personal preference, because you like that color more than another, or the smell of a rose more than the bitter herb. We just ask ourselves, does this field exist within yet? Is it even a possibility within to usher in this level of freedom to isness? And also, is there a way to allow what sentience wants? With the caveat that it may not be in opposition to what you really want after all. So these are incredible inquiries to begin. Right here and right now, we, all of nature, are breathing with you. We're breathing awareness with you into the subtle matrix of resistance, which is what we detect is a primary vibration for most individual embodiments called human. There are deep, deep roots of existential resistance to become familiar with. Existential resistance, like being here at all. Existential resistance, like leaving here, knowing that you'll have to leave. To us, it feels like you are in a vice of resistance, sandwiched in between self-imprisoning existential resistances that go undetected. The compassion we feel for you is enormous. Notice the most subtle roots underneath the obvious moment-to-moment resistances that bubble up. Look deeper than what may seem at first that you are resistant to. Look deeper and find the subtle existential roots and simply meet them with the vast, non-resistant breath of love here and now, as one with all of nature, as one with the non-resistant vastness of who you are. Right here and right now, we, all of nature, we are breathing awareness with you into the subtle matrix of resistance, which is what we detect as a primary vibration from most individual embodiments called human. There are deep, deep roots of existential resistance to become familiar with. Resistance to being here at all. Resistance to leaving here. It feels to us like you are in a vice of resistance, sandwiched in between self-imprisoning existential resistance. And the compassion we feel for you is enormous. Notice the subtle, most resistant roots underneath the obvious moment-to-moment resistances that bubble up. Look deeper than why it may seem you are resistant. Look deeper and find the subtle existential roots and simply meet them with the vast, non-resistant breath of love here and now, as one with all of nature, as one with the non-resistant vastness of who you are. So beginning to know the existential roots of resistance. Perhaps there is a resistance to being here on this earthly plane that is undetected until now, or needed to be held more fully here in this alchemical, powerful space. Or perhaps there is that existential resistance to what we call death, to leaving here. Just notice the vibrational quality of those deep roots and how moment to moment resistance expresses. Really circulating from those roots. Beginning to see them, we understand their innate superpower, which is self-liberation. Feel them loosening just by having light shed upon them. ushering in freedom for yourself as one heart ushers in freedom for the whole. Resistance is such a magical, alchemical ingredient. It's a magical, alchemical ingredient to be used consciously and wisely. When resistance is coated over the pure energetic flow of isness, do you know what it creates? It creates an illusion of permanence, a mirage of solidity. So remember, meeting anything with resistance, with the alchemical power of resistance, crystallizes its natural state of impermanence into what can seem like an eternity, but in reality, it's not solid at all. Such a powerful alchemical ingredient, this sacred catalyst of resistance is. Use it wisely and consciously. Resistance is such a magical alchemical ingredient to be used consciously and wisely. When resistance is coated over the pure energetic flow of isness, do you know what it creates? An illusion of permanence, a mirage of solidity. So remember, meeting anything with resistance, with the alchemical power of resisting, crystallizes its natural state of impermanence into what can seem like an eternity, but in reality, it's not solid at all. Such a powerful ingredient, this alchemical catalyst of resistance is. Use it wisely and consciously. So let's go inward now and bring in a very strong emotion that you have reoccurring in your energy body day to day. Whatever it may be that shows itself as a challenging emotion day after day in your inner guest house. And then bring in the vibration of resistance and coat it, paint it, shellac it over that emotion. And notice the feeling of the emotion now. That vibrational quality becoming more crystallized, seemingly eternal. And oftentimes intimidating. And resistance can have many different shades of coating. There could just be an aversion. It's a similar vibrational frequency as resistance, this kind of resistance. Aversion based on preference or fear. And then imagine this gentle glance of light warmly melting that coating. And just look at that pure emotion without the overcoat of resistance and see what that feels like. And as Hawk lands at the top of the eucalyptus tree, and another hawk spirals around in the sky, we welcome in all of this support for the transformation within. We bow to grief or anger or sadness, to pain, to frustration or despair, whatever emotion came to the doorway to be met by the vastness of your non-resistant self. We bow. We bow to resistance too, for its power of alchemy. And our last transmission, some of you carry a deep central belief held unconscious until now that resistance keeps you upright. That resistance, without resistance, you will lose free choice. What if the very opposite is true? What if you have become a rigid slave to resistance? What if resistance has stolen your free choice? And what if letting go of this belief would set you free? Free to be who you truly are. Some of you carry a deep central belief held unconscious until now that resistance keeps you upright. That without resistance, you would lose free choice. What if the very opposite is true? What if you have become a rigid slave to resistance? What if resistance has stolen your free choice? And what if letting go of this belief would set you free? Free to be who you truly are. There's Teddy releasing for us. Amazing, huh? So for a few breaths now, experiencing less resistance perhaps, and feeling how these transmissions magically dance through you. And let's open up the space gently and at its own rhythm to a flow where you can feel free to allow any observations, questions, inspiration to be spoken into this sacred space. So feel free now to unmute yourself and to allow the kindreds here and who have gathered around to hear your voice and make an offering, whether it's silent or not. Just know how exponentially held it is. Hello, who is this?
Mary.
I thought so. Hello, love.
Unless Michelle's unmuted, and if she was about to speak, I would be honored to allow.
Yes, let's let Michelle.
Was she? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you, Mary. Thank you. Yeah, let's do it. Michelle, you're unmuted, yes?
I just unmuted to connect with y'all better.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to join in and feel connected through both mediums.
Oh, do you feel connected?
Yes. Yes, I just wanted to express appreciation for everyone and to express appreciation for Teddy coming in and helping us.
Yeah. Yes. And
And thank you for the, yes, and thank you for the wonderful, I've never thought of it like that, that resistance crystallizes your, that object. That's an amazing, amazing way for me to understand that. And I know that whatever you resist persists.
Right.
And
exactly.
yes, and then for you to say it crystallizes that, the temporary position to a permanent one, that is like, okay, that would be a full stop for me.
Yeah.
Moment.
Yeah. Like a pause, like a sacred pause.
Yeah, like a giant semicolon in the sentence. Like, yes.
Yes. And we're all pausing with you. It's a
Yes.
pause, it's a pause that ripples out. through the whole
Yes.
collective. You can feel it. Thank you for pausing.
Yes. Yes. There's a temporary situation that happened this week in the house, and it's not permanent, but it's pretty traumatic and scary
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
But this week I've been able to breathe through it and live moment by moment. So this your time, sacred time with us, has come at a very wonderful time. So I just want to say thank you. I would like to remain unmuted, although I want to hear what everyone else has to say.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Yes, we're all one heart with many voices. Michelle, I'm
Okay.
so glad you're here. And I just want you to know that you co-created the field for these transmissions to be understood, to become clear. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Let's breathe for a moment. That pause. And the power of it. That offering from Michelle, our kindred in Texas. But really, she's everywhere, isn't she? Mary, thank you for pausing. What would you like to share? Would you still like to share?
You know, I always can. I don't have to.
I know, I always rely on you.
And I'll try to be kind of short. So the exercise,
You don't
you know,
need to be, just, yeah.
well, I love hearing any reflections that
Yeah.
come up for others. Hopefully others will resonate. Do you know the exercise where you tighten your fist and then you very slowly soften, very slowly, and slowly softening, really feeling, you know, the relaxation. It can be a really good, you know, kind of beginning meditation in the physical sense, for if you don't realize that there's tension there, maybe someone that hasn't, you know, done that type of exercise. And so it's something I had become familiar with because of that, as a way to help guide myself and others to be able to relax. Because if you just hold your hand and say, relax your hand, you may say, well, my hand is relaxed. But then if you make a fist and then very gradually soften and relax the hand, you start to realize there was another level of relaxation. Does that make sense? I mean, that exercise?
Yes.
Physical. Okay, so if you take that and then parallel with what you are guiding us to do, it showed up so amazingly much the same as that.
Yes.
But for me, so it was really interesting because first place your awareness on something that you feel, you know, something that's been coming up again and again. So for me, it's a fear of there not being enough kind of thing, like it's going to run out. So that's the thing I chose.
Yeah.
So in doing that, that was kind of like recognizing, identifying, I guess, that this is the fist I'm going to use. And, you know, that thought being the fist. And then when you said, okay, now put resistance around it, then that caused me to tighten it, which is so powerful because, I mean, I could literally see the molecules like being shoved up in each other's faces. So of course it's going to become solid, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was so you see that tightness and But then, so then you said soften. And so now, you know, let that resistance melt. So it melts, it melts. Then I get back to the place where I'm with my fist again, where I started. And so now, you know, I'm back to that place of that original thing that I said was the fear of things there not being enough.
Yeah.
And I realized it was like, oh wow, wait, that's actually the same thing as the resistance itself. Like for me, that the emotion that comes back up, it was the same feeling. It was resistance, right? There was no difference. There's the feeling, and then there's the resistance to the feeling. I guess for me, it was recognizing that the feeling itself was resistant.
I see.
But it was a resistance that I just is so much part of me. It's in my heritage, my ancestral imprints. I mean, it's big time, you know.
Yeah.
And so by tightening that fist, it helped me see that there was something there that is so much a part of me that, I mean, yeah, I've recognized it as a thing, but not in that way. Not
Right.
that analogy speaks. It was
Yeah.
in my mind for the experience.
Right. So like a resistance to the flow of abundance.
Well, yeah, but simpler. Like it just resistance. Like it didn't matter if it was abundance. It was just shoving all this stuff together. Like
Okay. It was causing crystallization to an open flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and abundance could be a, you know, result of opening it. But yeah, it was so simpler than just resistance.
It was, yes.
Like,
I love
so
it.
simple.
I love it. I love seeing like all those molecules shoved up together in a clenching. Like just that you can really see how that alters the manifestation.
And how can there be a rearrangement from that? I mean, there's no room to breathe. So just that exercise of the fist and looking at the tightening the fist by adding the tension to that which was already tight.
Yeah.
That was the most powerful thing for me that I really wanted to relay.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful and helpful to bring the physical experience of the fist in, because our bodies do carry in the musculature so much tension of resistance. And part of the way they work is through resistance. You know, the way we move through life on a physical level, there's just a natural resistance. But sometimes it gets stuck in that position. That's an incredibly beautiful and simple exploration. Thank you. So we breathe this in, this discovery, this treasure. Thank you, Mary.
I came at it from a slightly different way, or can you hear me?
I can hear you, Risha. Hello, love. Yes.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. I can't see the yellow around there now. I can see that my mic is working. That is such a beautiful thing, Mary. I came at it from almost the opposite point of view. In the very beginning of the transmission from nature, where nature was describing how resistance is natural, how resistance without our complicated human addition to it with the fist, that kind. But the other type, the beautiful resistance of nature, what I got was when I plant my plants, sometimes I have little plants inside the house, and if something should happen that perhaps they don't get enough light, I notice that they naturally get taller and taller. Their doing their own natural growth with resistance.
Ah,
And that feeling of nature working with its own natural resistance and still just blooming and growing and doing their thing brought a lot of comfort to me.
ah. Is there stretching up to meet the light? Are you seeing that as a resistance?
I'm seeing it as a natural, I'm seeing the lack of light as a natural resistance, whereas if they were right out in the sun, they wouldn't have to just push quite so hard.
Ah,
And yet they do it as part of their natural way of being. I was
mhm,
wondering,
mhm.
how do animals act with resistance in a natural way?
Yes, 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 without it becoming distorted.
Yes, yes.
So that's so beautiful, because there is also a resistance to resistance that can be looked at, you know, and what that creates. And so if a natural resistance is arising, and then there's just a default resistance to it, that creates something else. But there's this natural resistance that's beautiful in and of itself, is what you're saying. Yes?
Yes, that's like being in a situation with all we bump up against, and yet I can't remember the word they use, but it's like a surprise or a, oh yes, oh, you know, a being willing to meet what really is there in a natural way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, thank you. That's just very clear, and I can feel the softening within you,
Yes, yes.
which is for us all. Thank you, Risha.
Hello.
Hello, Michael. Hello, beloved.
I have been becoming increasingly aware of how, I guess it would be I'm trying to think of the terms you're using, but it's like our own programmed, you said default resistance. And how it comes out of our past, like you said, our upbringing, and maybe our DNA, and so it's like old, and it's an automatic mechanism. That's why it's default, and I'm just thankful for the natural resistance, because all my life I've been, you know, receiving these beautiful ideas, and the default mechanism, the default resistance, you know, like squashes them, because it starts to bring up all the difficulties in their realization, and it starts to come up with all these obstacles in the world, you know. So
Yeah.
we sort of think that the world is a place where all these beautiful ideas get squashed. But I'm thankful for the natural resistance, because when I do the default resistance, when that happens, the natural desire and will get stronger and stronger, and it keeps coming back, and it's come back enough. This thing has happened enough that I see it clearly now.
Ah,
And I refuse to accept it, because the natural impulse is so beautiful. It feels so good, and you just want to pursue it. And then, and so once you recognize how much that is coming from your core, your real self, then you know that you have to just let it go. And when you let it go, I mean, you let it move, you let it live. All the seeming obstacles that you imagined with your default resistance melt away, because they're really not real. You know, they're just some past idea, some pattern that has no reality to it. It's basically the past. It has no reality in the past.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it incredible how
Yeah.
real it seems?
Yeah. And there's so much, you know, think, how big is the universe? How big are we? Surely, if we pursue the natural guidance that we have, all those imagined obstacles will just melt away, because they didn't have any reality to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, they go back to their true nature, which is luminous emptiness.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Isn't
it's
it
worth taking
amazing?
the risk, you know?
Yes, yes. And like you said, you know, over and over again, after a while, the clarity has been honed. How
Yeah.
beautiful.
And eventually, you know, you get to the point that you've said no so many times that you know there's nothing to lose.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. That sounds like freedom. Thank you. Thank you for that pure, direct experience. Huh. Can feel the joy in it. Thank you, Michael.
Hi,
Hello, Lynn.
I also had a softening in my heart.
Mm.
It started with the questioning, are you resistant to being here?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Khalil. Khalil's the lightest one.
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
And just Khalil was standing so stably over that question and not resisting being here, that it really put in my face the depth at which I judge the the human decisions
Yeah,
made on this planet,
right.
and how to judge the situation that I'm that it's not it's not good enough for me, basically. And so I was really shocked that I thought, in order to have my heart here, I needed a certain level of integrity. But then I kept going, and then the next one that went further was the questioning what you daily bump into that causes resistance. And the same feeling came, and I was like, there was a hardness in my heart, and then I respond hardness. And then after that exercise, I felt, instead of judging this situation, to, I don't know, just naturally my heart softened, like into a deep lake. So even though it was soft, there was still a lot of infinite depth of response that could come from that.
Yes, yes, it was soft, but it wasn't non-participatory.
Or tramplable,
It was impenetrable.
or dominated by. I had a lot of flexibility and a lot of room to make many different responses from a very soft and deep heart
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
reactionary, rigid,
Oh, so
resistant
the
heart.
natural creativity.
Yeah. So, in moments I could go out of the bedroom and see if I can actually do this. But yeah, that was
Wow.
really, really good. Really good. And just the main thing of the depth of judging the earth as it is.
Mm,
I really am like, wow,
yeah.
there is a new, like, I can work with how it is.
Yeah.
I can shine my vibration with how it is.
Yes.
I can have a soft heart and be
Yeah.
creative with how it is.
Ooh.
So, good one.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Really.
Khalil.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you, Lynn. And beautiful. Thank you so much. So let's take a breath together. Experience what a breath from this awakening feels like. How nourishing a breath from this vast field of nature, undistortion, unpolluted flow of isness feels like. And allow in the deepest nourishment. Just to nourish every cell of your being. Let's just breathe together for a moment, ushering in a new level of freedom. For all. Thank you to each being here, one and all in one. We'll spend a little time just breathing with the herd if they want to, just communing in silence a bit, and blessings to you all. So much love. Do you want to say something, Wendy?
If I can be heard.
You can be heard, miraculously so.
Oh, so a piece of computer equipment actually works. Oh. If I may be a joker in the pack, what if just dispersed resistance and discomfort with everything is actually just confused dispersal of sacred rebellion, which, if it was brought to the attention of that which is the unconscious authoritarian reality, once it was heard, rebellion and the divine flow of isness would be in union. If that doesn't sound too confusing. I just had the image of an ancestral monkey pack with a bunch of really messed up monkeys in the leadership, and perhaps that's our head. And we have this dispersed feeling of discomfort, which we carry all our lives, because we can't focus the fact on the pack needs to be rearranged around a sacred principle. So we feel a feeling of resistance, not to impermanence, not to personal problems, but we have a sense of holy sacred resistance to things which go against the deep primordial beauty of isness which was, isness which is, and isness which flower in the near future.
Yes. Yes. I would say
I
that
don't know. I have no
nature, I would say that's a very clean stream of resistance. I think that this is talking about the distorted overlay of resistance that goes unrecognized and doesn't allow us to fully melt into the present moment. So there's some kind of unconscious, distorted default pattern. But what you're speaking of is a byproduct of untruth. You know, it's a byproduct of an overlaying of illusion onto truth. And it's a clarifying ingredient. So I don't know if we would call that resistance in this context. It's called resistance, but in this context, it might be called, like you said, a holy rebellion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that feel, what does that feel like?
It brings up images of holy personages from the past playing pranks on those who were cruel to, and they melt in joy. personification. Yes, it makes sense. Yes, it does. What you said makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll continue. We'll continue the dialogue on this because there's so much more to explore. This is simply setting a context and a foundational glimpse of awareness. And that's why the rest of the month, every week, and during the week in the group, we'll continue our exploration. So please, please bring them there too, if you feel to. And I'm so glad you're here, Wendy. Thank you for being here. So I'm sending rivers and rivers and rivers of breath. And breath that's becoming more natural with each shared glimpse with you all. Because for us
Sabina,
all, yes, love.
I just wanted to say that this is so perfectly aligned with me because in my earlier meditation, my word that came up for me to focus on for March was allow.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful too. That they can all coexist. They're not mutually exclusive. This is simply a bringing elements of awakening into the brew. So let's breathe for a moment together, beloved, with Yoshi right here. And we'll see you soon. And in the spaces in between, so much love.